Hey there, and welcome to Sweet Tea Traveler. I am Tracy Burton, where we talk about all inclusives, ocean cruising, and river cruising, but with a southern viewpoint. So, today we're going to be talking about the difference between ocean cruising and river cruising. So, let's start with first the size of the ship. So, with your ocean cruising and your river cruising ships are definitely smaller. Your ocean cruises, of course, are going to be built larger to be able to withstand the sea and the waves of the sea. And they're meant to go to your destinations. But with a river cruise, you're typically dealing with a smaller ship that's going to sleep anywhere from 130 to 190 people, depending on the river cruise line. But also, you're not just going to the destination, you're going through the countries with rivers and lakes and different various waterways on a river cruise ship, which can definitely help those who might battle seasickness. And so that would definitely be a plus for me, because I am one of those who can get a little bit seasick. But so another thing about the river cruise ships that differ from ocean cruise ships are you're going on the inland waterways, like I just mentioned, which is really nice. You're getting to see like the Rhine River. You're going to get to see the castles and the vineyards and all the things that typically with ocean cruising you're not going to get to do. And given the size of the ship difference, with ocean cruising, you're coming into a port and oftentimes you're going to be getting off with what, 3,000 of your closest friends, right? But with river cruising, you're just showing your card. You're not having to go through like security and have your bag checked and do all the things. It's almost very like a family. When you're coming in and off, they learn to recognize you because it is such a small sailing each time. You'll have your card usually that you'll display when you come on the ship. Sorry, I just hit the camera. Uh, but when you'll come on the ship or leave the ship, just so they can keep track and know that you're on or off, and make sure that everyone is accounted for. So that does make it a little bit different. And one thing that I love about river cruising as well is, when you're coming off the port with ocean cruising, you are obviously coming off with a lot of people, not just your ship, but oftentimes other ships too. And so the ports are much larger typically. But with river cruising, you tend to have much smaller ports. And a lot of times that means you're getting to off in city center, which is incredible. Just to be able, like I was able to get off right in Rotterdam, and it was amazing to be able to just walk steps and find myself in downtown. And that is definitely one of the pluses of river cruising that I love, and how it differs from ocean cruising. So you have your different ports of call. They're going to be totally separate from what you would get in ocean cruising. I think ocean cruising and river cruising are both very addictive. And I love them both, but they do have their differences in the sense that as you're doing your ports of call on your river cruises, it's going to usually be smaller ports of call that you typically can't do with an ocean cruise because it is so far inland. And so it gives you more cultural immersions. And so you're able to get off the ship and go try the foods, go shop the little shops, or even, see the cathedrals and the just amazing tours and excursions that are often included with river cruising. And so that brings me to another point about the difference between ocean cruising and river cruising. There are some ocean cruises out there that are somewhat all-inclusive, but most of them, your bigger cruise lines that we're all familiar with, typically you have to pay extra for your excursions. But with river cruise lines, you often do get excursions with your river cruise price. So they can vary depending on which river cruise line that you're going with. Some may just include one tour, or some may give you up to 6 tours that you're choosing from at each port, some lasting full day, some half day. Some vary depending on activity level and how strenuous it might be. Some might have bicycles, and you're going on a bike tour, which, hopefully next time I go on a river cruise, I will be in well enough shape to do that, but I haven't had that opportunity yet. One more reason to get into the gym. But anyways, let's move on. So your excursions are oftentimes included, and if you are not in the city center when you get off or near the excursion that you've chosen, they will transport you by private bus. And so that is another amazing feature. You're not having to pay extra for transportation. It's already included in the excursions that they're providing you as well. And then for entertainment purposes, let's talk about that, because the cruise ships do differ with their entertainment. So of course, it's a smaller ship, so things are going to be much different with a smaller ship. You're not going to have casinos and rock climbing walls and water slides. Now, you might end up having a pool or a heated pool on the top deck, but you're not going to have all the other fancy shows and things that you would have on a large ocean cruise line. It's going to be a much more intimate environment, much more educational. And so you oftentimes will have singers or performers come onto the ship that are local from that area and going to be doing something that resonates with the city that you're visiting, as well as the food too will oftentimes resonate with the area that you are in on your river cruise. But so the entertainment will be in the evenings. Typically, they'll come onto the ship and perform. Oftentimes, a lot of the river cruise lines will have sail away parties. They call it sail away parties. You're not necessarily sailing away at the time, but usually there are drinks included a lot of times with the sail away. And they'll have an educational talk about what port they're going to the next day, about a history lesson, typically about the city. And then they'll talk about usually the excursions and how they differ. And sometimes you might want to change your mind on your excursion. And a lot of river cruise lines will let you do that. You can change your mind at the last minute and say, you know what, I thought that was going to be a good fit for me, but really it's not. I like to switch to this instead. And so it does oftentimes gives you the freedom in river cruising to be able to do those things. And then another thing with ocean cruising and river cruising, if you like having multiple areas to dine and getting pizza at midnight at the pizza, going to the arcade and, doing all those type of things, it may not be for you, because river cruising is going to be typically all of them going into a main dining area for your dinner. Although there are some river cruise lines that do offer some other choices for having dinner where you don't necessarily have to go to the main dining room. But as a whole, the theme tends to be around a general same time. People do go to the dining room to have their sit down meals. And oftentimes you'll be with other couples or other people traveling or cruising so that you can get to know other people too. So it is a very socially friendly environment. Lots of, conversations and people getting to know each other, sometimes from different parts of the country, which is amazing and very enriching. Definitely one of my favorite parts of river cruising is getting to know some of my other fellow cruisers. You don't necessarily have to be social if you don't want to. You can separate yourself. People will pick up on that pretty quick because it is a small ship, but they'll leave you to be for the most part because everybody's there just to have a wonderful time, whether it be, with a group of new friends that you've just made, or maybe you just want to be with your partner that you're with and have some alone time. You're able to do that. The breakfast, lunch, and dinner is included for the most part. And then you get snacks typically as well. There are some options on some other river cruise lines that might let you choose if you just want the full board, which means you're just basically renting that room that's going to take you on the ship to the different cities. Or you can have up to the all-inclusive where your everything is included, your mixed drinks, your wines and your beers, all of your meals, room service, everything. It just depends a little bit on which river cruise line that you choose. But for the most part, all of your meals are going to be included. And typically you're always going to get wine and beer offered to you at lunch and dinner at no additional charge. Some other river cruise lines automatically have like an all-inclusive where you can also have top shelf liquors as part of your package that's already included in the fare. Or sometimes they'll just charge you a very reasonable fee if it's not already included in the price to have that additional mixed drink. I know sometimes wine will definitely give me a headache. So I can see where people would want to choose maybe having, a mixed cocktail or something like that instead of a glass of wine or beer if you choose to drink. So sodas are always included. I can't think of an instance with a river cruise line where sodas would not be included. And you get typically when you're coming onto the ship, there'll be like an area where you can get coffees and hot teas oftentimes, and you can just serve yourself in the cappuccino machine and different things like that, which is a huge bonus especially when you're coming in, if it's a little bit chilly outside, just be able to go get yourself a nice cup of hot tea or hot coffee is wonderful. And another big plus that I do love about river cruising is being able to sit up top. You can always sit up top. It just depends on the weather and what it's doing. But if you're going, when it's nice weather outside, you can sit up top as you're sailing down the river, which is amazing. And I love that aspect of it. But you typically do sail at night, and then you're porting during the day and having full days into the city for the most part. Sometimes you may end up going to different cities during the day, or sometimes you're doing a scenic cruise during the day. So itineraries can vary, and we can have another discussion about that on another episode. But let me think. If there's anything else that I am missing here, I'm just going to take a quick look at my notes. Oh, yes, there is something. So there is a little bit of variation in your river cruising. They are all year round now, which they used to just be somewhat seasonal. And some, there are January, February. You may not have a river cruise during that time just because of the weather, depending on the area. But for the most part, you're going to have your spring, your summer, your fall, and then you'll have Christmas cruises, which is amazing. So you can go to like the German Christmas markets down the Danube, or you can go on the Rhine for their Christmas markets too. So that's a really interesting thing, is some of the river cruise lines will really doll up their ships and just bring all out Christmas on the ship, which is amazing. It just depends which river cruise line that you're going with. But there are wine cruises, and there are different other themed type river cruises to choose from. So there are different river cruises, that can suit all types of personalities. And so that's one thing that I love about river cruising as well. And oftentimes when you're working with a travel agent, you might have a little bit of an idea of what you want, but you're not really sure. That's when it's great to kind of learn about the different river cruise lines to figure out which one might be a great fit for you. But I hope this kind of helps explain a little bit of the difference between ocean cruising and river cruising. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment below, and I will be happy to answer them. Thank you for tuning in with Sweet Tea Traveler. Have a great rest of your day and happy travels.